Drew here, bringing you the first weekly word of the new year. Has there ever been a rule that you were forced to follow that you didn't really like? Maybe it was like a curfew or screen time limits or a school dress code. And maybe you have rules in your house, who you can date or where and when you can go hang out with friends or what friends you can even hang out with in the first place. During this COVID season, we've experienced our fair share of rules and guidelines. Things like masks, social distancing. Even if the rules are there for good reason, sometimes those rules can feel like they're keeping us from something, like they're a form of bondage. When some people think of God or the Christian life, they might think it's all about following a bunch of rules, like a list of do's and don'ts that feel like bondage, rules that may or may not even feel like they're relevant to our daily lives. In Jesus' day, there were some religious people who were obsessed with following the rules. Some of these religious people were so obsessed that they forgot the whole purpose of the rules to begin with. And then they would shame other people if they weren't following their list of rules the way they wanted them to be followed. In Matthew chapter 22, one of these religious people comes up to Jesus and asks him, "So what is the greatest commandment in the law?" Jesus, tell us, what is the most important rule of all? And Jesus responds in this way. He replied, "You must love the Lord your God with all of your heart and with all of your soul or being and with all of your mind. And the second is like it. You must love your neighbor as you love yourself. All of the law and the prophets depend on these two commands." And Jesus says that these two rules, well, they're not really two rules. They're intimately connected and you can't separate them or have one without the other. So it's kind of like one rule. These two rules sum up everything that's important. It all comes back to loving God and loving others as ourselves. This rule of love is not some rule that keeps us in bondage, but it's the rule that sets us free to live the life that God intends for us. James calls this rule of love the perfect law or the law of freedom. And James says that we can't just hear this rule of love, but we have to put it into practice in our lives. The Christian life is not about following a bunch of stale rules that feel like bondage. It's about grounding our lives in the perfect law of love that sets us free. What does that look like in your life this week? What rules do you follow that may seem annoying, but are actually grounded in love? There will always be rules that we don't like, or we don't understand, or we don't agree with, but the right rules, the ones grounded in love, they can set us free.